What's going on, everybody on YouTube? What's going on, everybody on Facebook? I appreciate you guys being here. I want to talk about today the Biden State of the Union speech very briefly. Specifically, I want to talk about the Tim Scott version of the speech or his rebuttal, because I think the GOP, as somebody, I don't know, some people watch on both sides, but I plan on voting Republican. There's not much the Democrats can do for me at this point until they, do a whole 180. But as somebody who plans to vote Republican, I'm tired of this like kabuki theater of like, here's your choice and here's your rebuttal, and I think there's a lot to be desired. Although Tim Scott's a super, super nice guy, I think a little flat, in my opinion, a nice guy. We got to talk about this stuff because they're moving the Overton window so far left that it just doesn't really matter that much anymore. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because I'm going to play his speech live. We're going to listen to it so we don't take it out of context. And then I'm going to really explain why I feel the way I feel, because I think it's valid. And when you get caught in the left versus right paradigm, a lot of times you miss these things. So I'm going to play that. Second thing I want to talk about is Mike Lindell was on Jimmy Kimmel, which I think was pretty brave for both of them. Although I like Mike Lindell a little bit more than I like Jimmy Kimmel for sure. Both of them had a lot to lose or gain, I think, by being on it. And I want to compliment Mike Lindell because a lot of times here, I think he gets overly excited and will tell Trump supporters that Trump's coming back in office. And it's really annoying because they already think that. And then like every time the date happens, people freak out and get really upset. So, I've been critical of Mike on my show, I think respectfully, hopefully. But he came off very, very authentic in the Jimmy Kimmel interview. And I saw these comments from a lot of people who are liberals, and they were like, wow, I really like Mike Lindell. He seems like a super, super nice guy. And I think there's something to be learned from that, which is authenticity. That's what I think Tim Scott lacks. No offense. I don't think he's like a bad guy, but he just sounds like someone reading a teleprompter. And Mike Lindell, although the people watching the stream probably didn't agree with him, he just comes like he means well. And I've always said that about him. Like, I think he's a nice guy. I just don't know. So, I think the GOP needs to learn from the Trump era. People like Trump because when he read off the teleprompter, he would go off script, but it didn't sound like it. It felt like someone who was actually talking to you, as opposed to somebody who's just reading a script that, to be quite fair, the script is so old and archaic, it doesn't even make sense anymore. After the pandemic and what's going on with the medical tyranny and how pretty much everything that we knew constitutionally and politically went out the window on March 2020th, they're reading these scripts that would like appeal to somebody in like 1998, where it's like, it's time to get up with the times. So that's what it is. The two stories. I'm hopefully going to compliment some people, but also, I have to be honest, like I always am. I don't think people realize how far gone these Republicans are. But we'll get into it. Let me see who's in the chat. I don't want to waste too much time. I do want to sip my coffee. Amy, I appreciate you. Someone said they dropped the mask mandate. Congrats. Lisa, Ruth, appreciate you guys. Amy said we love Mike Lindell. He's a super, super nice guy. I just think he needs to chill with like telling people, oh, Trump's going to come back on the 20th. Trump, he's getting caught in the moment, which is, I love the work ethic he has. If he's trying to look into election stuff, I support him in that. I just want him to be, honest with Trump supporters, because there's already this problem where people think Trump is Batman and he's going to like save their entire world. So, when Lindell comes forward and says, oh, I'm 100% sure, and then, it never happens, it's like, dude, but, super nice guy for sure. Someone said he's getting caught in the grift. I don't know. All right, I'm just going to get into it. Thank you for being here on Facebook. We have like 1,600 people. On YouTube, we have like 390. I don't want to waste too much time, but I listened to Tim Scott's entire speech. Maybe I'll start with Biden's because I'm going to keep it brief. For me, this is low-hanging fruit. Like, I think you guys know what I thought of Joe Biden's speech, and I think it was the perfect imagery. You had Pelosi and Kamala. Make sure you're saying her name right or you're racist. Kamala, not Kamala, Kamala. I learned that very well. They had them behind Biden with a mask on their face, and it looked like our country is being held for ransom. And that's exactly what both parties did to us, especially the Democrats, but both parties. They held us for ransom from March 2020th until end date decided by your governor or whatever. So perfect imagery. I mean, empty, masks on. It looks like a scene out of like a murder movie when they hold your family for hostage and say like, how much money are you going to give me? And to be honest, that's exactly what's happening. And it's not just the left wing. They're the worst. Obviously, the blue states, blue areas. But the Overton window, the left goes so far crazy where I would consider it. And I keep saying this. human slavery. I mean, look up what the word enslavement means. Look up what the word slavery means. You've had genocides on white people. You've had Bolshevik revolutions. You've had Armenian genocides. You've had, slavery in the black community. You've had Arab slavery. You've had it all, where it's no joke. I don't want to compare it to something terrible, but I'm just saying, if you look up the word enslavement, it means to lose freedom and lose rights. And that's what happens when you become a slave. So it's not a coincidence that you can't run your business, you can't go to church, you can't be outside, you can't go here. They're turning us into second-tier citizens, all for, this situation where they hold us ransom for a year. They tell us as soon as their pharmacy product's out, now we could be free. And now that their pharmacy product's out, they're still telling us you still can't be free, but we'll give you like a few little rights if you get the jab. It's like we're being treated like slaves. So I'm looking forward to maybe a Republican sometimes in Congress calling this a human slave scheme, but maybe I'm dreaming too much. I don't know. Probably not going to hear it there. Anyway, the left goes into that and the right just does this balancing act where I'm like, I don't know what you guys are conserving. And you guys see me on here. I'm not the hardest core like right winger when it comes to certain things. I mean, I'm pretty hardcore in some, like I'm not a pushover, but little things wouldn't bother me, but they're certainly not socially conservative. I think people have figured that out, but they're not even really economically conservative. So it's like, what are you conserving if, you guys are not only not stopping socialism, but you're bragging about it in your speech. So we're going to play the Tim Scott speech because Biden, I think it was a train wreck. Everybody's downvoting it. I heard he was the most popular president ever. I'm just wondering why he gets ratioed on every YouTube video that he posts. And now YouTube's talking about we need to hide the likes and dislikes ratio. It's worked fine for like a decade, but all of a sudden Joe Biden starts getting downvoted more than he gets upvoted. And they're talking about moving the, the like button. And I think that's probably the reason. They're going to say it's not. And this is just my, perspective. I'm just guessing. But I've never heard a problem with the like-dislike ratio ever until the people that they like can't catch whatever you want to say. Same with like Bill Gates and stuff on Instagram. Like nobody likes him. Like 10 out of, maybe like 50 out of 51 people are like leaving a negative comment. I don't agree with being negative, but it's like, if you're that unpopular, maybe there's a reason why, and people like this always hide behind words, hate speech, you're racist, you're sexist, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're anti-science, you're anti-Semitic. They'll make up a word for anything to stop from the reflection on why they're so unpopular. I don't know. It's like, maybe people are mean. I'll give you that. Maybe they're horrible and they're so mean to Bill Gates and Joe Biden. Or maybe there's something you guys are doing that people don't like and they have the right not to like that. I don't know. Just a thought, but I don't know that much. So when it comes to Tim Scott, the first 3 minutes, I'm going to play it right now at 2:48. The first 2 minutes, he's like, listen, there's too many platitudes in politics and, we need to come together. And then he starts going on over these platitudes. He's like, he used the Kamala Harris thing. Like, I was that kid. My parents were divorced. My parents were divorced too. There's nothing funny about it, but it's like, dude, we've heard this story from every politician. Joe Biden's from Scranton. You had divorced parents. Tim Scott does not come off authentic. Is he better than Biden? I would say like a pencil in a pencil sharpener is better than Joe Biden. So of course, but that's pretty low hanging fruit. Like the dude does not come off like somebody I believe. And I actually believe some of what he's saying. I vote for his party, but he's like, no more platitudes. Now, I was a kid. I was a boy. My parents are divorced just like you. And I'm like, bro, it sounds like you're reading a script. And then he said, something, I don't even remember what I was going to say, but let's just play his clip because I don't want to take it out of context. But it's like 2.5 minutes of pandering after he said he wasn't going to pander. Okay, bro, what's your big policy stuff? Let's hear.
And kids like me.
Kids like me.
Were left behind. The clearest case I've seen for school choice in our lifetimes, because we know that education is the closest thing to magic in America. Last year, under Republican leadership, we passed 5 bipartisan COVID packages.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause it there. He said, can you guys hear? I moved the microphone closer. Under Republican leadership, we passed 5 COVID packages. What's a COVID package? What does that mean to you? That means in March, when they held you for ransom and treated you like an abused show animal and a slave, when it was a bipartisan affair from Trump to Fauci to Birx to Newsom to I think even DeSantis at this point, they shut the country down, told you it's probably a bad idea to go to a beach. Meanwhile, the real science is it's much more healthy to be on a beach than it is locked inside your house afraid. What the government did was evil. In both parties, they both fell for it. At least DeSantis admits he was wrong. I haven't heard a single other Republican or Democrat besides DeSantis admit it was wrong. Thank you, Ron DeSantis, for having a soul. They did that to us and they hurt us. And, the cases were spiking then. It's like, well, maybe it's not good to scare the crap out of everybody and jam them into multi-generational homes, not allow them to go to business, travel, work out, go to the beach, go to the park. They shut down parks. And Tim Scott wants to tell you, well, we did 5 COVID packages. I think one of them was, I don't know if he was talking about this one, but the CARES Act, the $1 trillion socialist communist scam bill. Socialism is, you guys know, oh my God, the Green New Deal, trillions of dollars, higher taxes. Yeah, that's what both parties did, including Trump. And the only one who opposed it was Thomas Massie, and they said, kick him out of the party. So you're bragging about the worst bills, in my opinion, in modern history. Not only did it cause inflation with lumber, all this stuff you're going to see, because you can't just print trillions of dollars, which Republicans are supposed to know. This is not like a me talking point. This is what they've told us for the past 30 years. But then also, all these other packages, it's just giving money to people who hate you. Look at the $1 trillion. I got $600. And then where did all the other money go? To all these liberal corporations that hate me and want to treat me like a slave, literally want me to be a second-tier citizen in this country for not following their psychotic rules, funneling billions of dollars to vaccine companies like Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson that have a history that is not 100%. And if you want to learn about that, don't take my word for it. Just search Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and look into their history. I mean, these are not the most ethical companies I've ever heard. So when you shut the country down and shut the country off and then do these care packages, that's not Republican, that's not conservative, but this is the GOP. We're going to put Tim Scott there, who, I don't care what skin color you are. Obviously, it's nice to have, a black Republican. I get it. And I know he's put in his work regardless of his skin color, but it's like, do they think that the black youth is listening to Tim Scott? I'm not going to call him an uncle, like they did. Like, that's rude. You could say that's even racist if you wanted to go that far. I'm not going to say that because that's mean. I think he's a nice guy, but he's definitely not authentic. He sounds like he's reading a teleprompter, and he's just like, I'm not going to do platitudes. Here's 2 minutes of platitudes and me bragging about the most socialist communist things ever. And people say, well, Republicans didn't do communism. I mean, communism by definition would be first of all, the abolishment of private property and the consolidation of power. It may not be full-blown communism yet, but when you shut down businesses, you force Honeywell to make ventilators, nobody can run their business. And, the only ones who are allowed to do what they want are major corporations and politicians. It's kind of communist. I don't know. I would say it's beyond socialism to shut the country down for 30 days, but he's bragging about essentially like all these crappy bills. And the more bills they pass, the more money they get. The more money they get, the more incentive they have to do this. Like, people think this is going away. Why would anyone who did this take this away? And they say it's not a conspiracy theory. Just open your eyes. Politicians have more power. Cuomo and Newsom have never had more power in their life. Anthony Fauci has never had more power in his life, considering, including the AIDS epidemic where he did get a lot of power. All these politicians are getting more power. You're getting less freedom. They're getting more money, so why would they stop doing this? The biggest sponsors to the media, one of the biggest ones is the pharmacy industry. One of the biggest politician sponsors is the pharmacy industry. They've had these people sold out. This is not my theory. My whole life before the pandemic, I always thought to myself, they're overprescribing pills. Do some people need pills? For sure. But they're overprescribing every 2 steps. You ADD, dude, we're the most pilled out country. I think it's like 5% of the world taking 50%. I can't back that up because I don't have it up in front of me. But last time I checked, US is like the opioid and the pill capital of the world. So they've always been shoving too many products down our throat. And Trump and Tim Scott and the GOP and the Republicans and the Democrats and Fauci, they all came together and said, okay, we've been doing this too much. Let's just do it 30 times more. And then let's take away your freedom. And then let's take away your business. And then let's take away your gym. And then let's take away your park. So they owe us an apology. And I find it quite disgusting to watch Democrats and Republicans just argue over us like we're just being held for ransom back here in a mask. And they're arguing over who the better slave master is. Well, I took away his freedom for 4 months and I was pushing the mask for a year. Well, I did it for a year and I want to do it for 2 years. Like, it's offensive to me as a citizen and a human being to watch these people, argue over me like a slave when none of them are apologizing besides maybe DeSantis, and none of them even give a crap about us, Trump included. And you guys, everybody, not you specifically, but people are just clapping like seals, like he did some sort of crazy good speech. The dude is bragging about socialism and the worst bills ever passed in recent history that took away our rights. It's not a coincidence. Oh, they give billions of dollars to all these people and your rights disappear. No, they're incentivized to do so. It's the more money you give, the more they do it. The more you wear the mask, they add another one. You do that and you get the vaccine and they just add another restriction. Oh, you can maybe take it away. The more you comply, the more they do. It's the same with government. The bigger it gets, the more crazy they get. And Republicans are supposed to know that. So the fact that he's bragging about these 5, COVID bills, these Republicans are selling you out and sending you down the river towards hell just slower than the Democrats and wearing a cowboy hat. Let's listen. Hold on. Let's listen again.
And kids like me were left behind.
We'll keep going because it gets worse.
The clearest case I've seen for school choice in our lifetimes, because we know that education is the closest thing to magic in America.
Just an empty phrase.
Under Republican leadership, we passed 5 bipartisan COVID packages.
5 bipartisan COVID packages.
Congress supported our schools, our hospitals, saved our economy, and funded Operation Warp Speed, delivering vaccines in record time.
All right, so he saved their economy by shutting down our economy and doing trillions of dollars of inflation loans or whatever I don't even know what they do, print fiat money that's not gold backed anymore. And by just jamming Operation Warp Speed vaccines down your throat, turning you into a second-tiered citizen, which he made no mention of because he doesn't give a shit. Trump doesn't really talk about it because they don't care. They don't care, guys. Everybody's clapping for this party that clearly doesn't care about us. Are they better than Democrats? For sure. I'm still probably going to vote just out of semi-survival of not turning into Canada or the UK, for which I'm grateful. Are they leading you towards capitalism? They took away capitalism and they're bragging about it in their speech. We saved the economy with our stimulus packages. We saved it with our 5 COVID bills and Operation Warp Speed. You didn't save the economy with the COVID bills and Operation Warp Speed. You destroyed the economy, threw us a few bones, paid off all your friends, paid off all the lobbyists, paid off all the most corrupt industries in the planet, gave the most corrupt industry in our country more power, more money, and more ability to supersede the Constitution than they've ever had. And they don't even remotely care about it. This is their platform. We're not going to talk about platitudes, Operation Warp Speed. It's a joke, folks. And I'm going to read a tweet real quick from Ben Shapiro. I know people want to act like I'm doing too much sometimes because, listen, I don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, I want to talk bad about Tim Scott and Ben Shapiro. I like Tim Scott. I feel like he's a super, super nice guy. I feel bad even saying this, but it's like, I'm also not going to be treated like an abused show animal for a year and listen to this guy brag about socialist $1 trillion bills that is causing inflation in multiple markets. But this is Ben Shapiro, the most conservative, the most popular conservative influencer, talking about what he thinks about vaccines. This is from just the other day. All right, Ben Shapiro on Twitter. Vaccine demand is dropping, particularly among the young and among minorities. To reverse this, we should tell people they could go back to normal if they get vaccinated. This is precisely what Biden refuses to do because continuing COVID panic is his lever for change. So he wants you to tell people, get vaccinated and you can go back to normal. And if you watch some of his videos from last year, I think he had a caller talking about vaccines. And Ben also supports mandatory vaccination. He thinks, well, the government shouldn't be able to go into your house and just give you a jab. Like, yeah, of course. Thank you, Ben. But he thinks that your kids shouldn't be able to go to school or public places if they don't get certain vaccines. So he's pro-mandatory vaccination, and he wants the message to minority and children be, hey, minorities and children, get the vaccine and you could go back to normal, when that's precisely what's wrong with our country right now. You shouldn't be allowed to be held for ransom for a year with the threat of you will never be free again unless you get the new vaccine. That, just to be completely honest, the Pfizer and the Moderna one are synthetic mRNA technology that they don't even tell people and no one even cares. They don't read the ingredients. They don't care, whatever. Okay, it's emergency use authorized, which is fine, in my opinion, whatever. If you want to take it, you can. But it's not FDA approved. And even if it is FDA approved, you have to understand what Ben Shapiro will never talk about, or maybe he will and just like sweep it under the rug. But they know about what goes on with this stuff. If you watch any pill commercial, and I'm going to play a video of Bill Gates talking about it real quick. If you watch any pill commercial, what happens on every single pill commercial? You will never find one pill, no matter how safe the pill is, they will always tell you the side effects. It could cause this, 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 it could cause this. If you got a vaccine recently, don't take it. It could cause it. That's what they say when I watch television now. They said, if you're this and you had a vaccine recently, don't take this pill. If you're this, if you're pregnant, don't take this pill. They warn you of 50 things. Why do they do that? Because they have legal liability that you could sue if they don't tell you what's going to happen to you. So they tell you so you can't sue. And if it happens to you, they know it might happen to you. That's why they told you that it happens. They cover their bases, which is smart. The vaccine industry is even smarter. They have no legal liability. It doesn't matter what happens to you. There was a pretty high profile, I think he was liberal CEO from Los Angeles. He's going viral on Twitter right now because he says he had a heart attack and heart complications after he got his dose. And he said, listen, it's either from this or this, but he's in his 30s. He's like, it's not this, so it's probably that. This guy's not anti-vaxxer. He got the vaccine, but he's finding out what a lot of people have found out and what really fuels the movement. It's not people who hate vaccines because they woke up and made a conspiracy theory. It's because they know somebody who got hurt by them. And I know somebody. That's just to be fair. In my personal circle, I know someone who's a few years younger than me from West Virginia who her arm doesn't work anymore. She got Sirva, and so did Jimmy Dore, and he complained about it for years. And then he got 2 Moderna doses, and he's felt sick for a week. I haven't felt sick for a week since I was 21. So why would I take that risk when I haven't been that sick since I was in college? So you get what I'm saying? It's not to say everything's dangerous, but a pill commercial tells you everything that's wrong with it or could possibly happen, because there is no one-size-fits-all approach. That's why I brought up at the board meeting almonds. Almonds are super healthy unless you're allergic to almonds, and then they could kill you or hurt you. So it's the same with almost every medication and food. Not everything's for everyone. Some people are lactose intolerant. Most people really shouldn't drink that much milk. It's not that healthy, I don't think. But anyway, I'm not a health advisor. I'm just saying personally, I think they overhype the milk in my generation. But the point I'm getting across is they know that things happen to people. That's why they protect themselves legally. And the fact that Shapiro wants to do mandatory vaccination, won't talk about it, and wants to tell children and minorities to get the vaccine, he's an evil little boy, man. Boy man. Looks like a boy, but he's in his 30s. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. You can't control how you were born. But, he's an evil man, so I'm going to make fun of him because what he's doing is sick. And what he's doing and not telling people with his big conservative platform, yeah, he's conserving a real lot, is evil, much more evil than my little joke. But here's Bill Gates. I'm just going to play this. It's from CNBC, 2 minutes long. He explains that, it's really they're trying to get a one-size-fits-all approach that hits hard in elderly people, but doesn't hit too hard in the younger generation. And he says the word indemnification. He said, we need indemnification. Indemnification, if you look up the word, it means compensation from harm or loss. They need to make sure their bases are covered, or else they would get sued. They're never going to be sued. There's never going to be a commercial, no matter how many people get hurt. And that's just a fact, because the vaccine companies for decades have had legal immunity, and that's not for most medications. And if it weren't for that, I don't know that they would be able to keep these things on the market that long. That's why they did it. Why do you think they did it? It wasn't always this way, but they were getting sued a lot, and I guess they couldn't handle themselves in court and thought it would be easier to, I don't know, take away liability completely. What a good gig. I mean, every company should get that. Food company, car company. I mean, imagine if you had no liability regardless of what happened. Do you think you'd have a lot of motivation to really care that much, considering that these industries are not ethical to begin with? I mean, don't get me started with the opioid and overprescription stuff that they've been caught doing, but whatever. Here's Bill Gates. I don't want to overstate it. Here's him explaining what the process is for them to protect themselves from liability, because he knows it happens. This is not a theory. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not anti-vaxxer. This is Bill Gates, the most pro-vaccine person on the planet, explaining exactly what the process is, because hundreds of thousands of people could get hurt if it's a small percentage of a large amount of people. Take a watch.
There's an approach called the RNA vaccine that people like Moderna, CureVac, and others are using, that in 2015, we'd identified that as very promising for pandemics and for other applications as well. And so if everything goes perfectly with the RNA approach, we could actually beat the 18 months. We don't want to create unrealistic expectations. The efficacy of vaccines in older people is always a huge challenge. It turns out the flu vaccine isn't that effective in elderly people. Most of the benefit comes from younger people not spreading it because they're vaccinated, and that benefits on a community basis the elderly. Here, we clearly need a vaccine that works in the upper age range because they're most at risk of that. And doing that so that you amp it up so it works in older people and yet you don't have side effects. If we have 1 in 10,000 side effects, that's way more, 700,000 people who will suffer from that. So really understanding the safety at gigantic scale across all age ranges, pregnant, male, female, undernourished, existing comorbidities, it's very, very hard. And that actual decision of, okay, let's go and give this vaccine to the entire world, governments will have to be involved because there will be some risk and indemnification needed before that can be decided on.
Okay, so if you follow what he's saying, I actually appreciate him for being honest there. I'm not a big Bill Gates fan. Thank you guys for the super chats. I'll try to read them later, but I'm not a big Bill Gates fan, but I appreciate him for being honest. He said, if we give this vaccine to the entire world, say it's 1 in 10,000 people get hurt, that's going to be hundreds of thousands of people who get hurt. So the governments need, and the vaccine companies already have it, but indemnification. Indemnification means compensation for harm or loss. They have all this stuff figured out, guys. They just don't tell you about it. They don't want you educated and informed. They want you brainwashed and just listening to whatever they say. The education and the information says they're protected from liability. So no, do people not use their heads? Like I know Ben Shapiro's not stupid. That's why I think he's evil for telling people this. But in general, do people not realize any pill, any food, like most of these stuff, it's not a one size fits all. So if you're giving it to everybody, pregnant women, men, healthy men, young kids, elderly adults, people with comorbidities, obese people, people with allergies, all this stuff, if you're giving it to every single person on the planet, or you're trying to, do you think that there's any medication like that ever? Have you ever heard of a commercial that says there is no risk whatsoever? No, they all say that. The vaccine companies don't tell you because they don't have liability. They don't care what happens to you. They're protected through the PrEP Act and sometimes through the NCVIA and through little compensation funds that maybe they'll throw you some money, maybe they won't. But would you want money if your arm doesn't work anymore? Like my friend, at that point, you'd probably trade your entire bank account for your functional arm again, but they don't care. So they don't have to tell you. And then Facebook, Google, YouTube, every mainstream media, every politician, none of them will explain that to you. That's the information. That's the science. And, at that point, if everybody took an informed decision, it would be fine. But this isn't like you get to say what you say, I say what I say. I don't want to get it. You can get it. That's not what we're living in. We were held for ransom for a year under this threat that if we don't, and still to this day, I'm still not free. I'm still not allowed to go certain places. I'm still not allowed because I won't put a cloth mask over my breathing hole like an abused show animal. And eventually now it's this, I can't go on a cruise or something that I've, given tens of thousands of dollars to because I won't get emergency use authorized, non-FDA approved synthetic mRNA shot in my arm by a company that I know settled out with the Justice Department on one of the biggest fraud cases in pharmacy history. Yeah, that sounds really normal. No, this isn't normal. We're being held ransom like prisoners. And this is your GOP. Don't get me started about Democrats. I'm not talking about them because I think they're great. I think they're worse, but that's low-hanging fruit. And this is the kabuki theater. They give you Joe Biden. He's a nightmare. Literally, it's like watching a nightmare. It's like my worst nightmare, except it's real. And they just look like they're being, held ransom. Then they give you Tim Scott, the boring, completely inauthentic guy reading a teleprompter, just going over how great it is that they did trillions of dollars of socialist inflation loans and Operation Warp Speed. And they get conservatives to defend Tim Scott. Well, he's not an uncle. You know what? That's rude. And it's true. That's very mean. Stop being so mean. But then it's like, what are you defending? That's the theater. They're sending you in a cart, whatever, a boat, whatever you want to say, off the edge, off the cliff, and that's the arena. It's like they have the full left to right arena in a boat, and it's sinking the wrong way. And you just stand to the right thinking it's going to protect you, but it's not. I mean, I'm glad I'm not Canada. I'm glad I'm not Europe. I think that's because of the people here. Everybody says run for office, which is honorable if you want to do it, but the media is more important than running for office. And I'm not acting like I'm that special. I'm not. But if you can control the minds of the masses, it doesn't matter who you vote for. When you go to Canada, you're voting left and right, but they've moved the minds of the masses so far left that it literally almost doesn't matter who wins, Doug Ford or Rob Ford. It's the same as Trudeau. They're all locking down. They're all working in lockstep. And same with the British situation. So if we don't protect the GOP, or at least make it so they're not like just worse versions of the Democrat 5 years ago, it doesn't matter who runs for office, and it doesn't matter who we vote for, because these people are just pretending to be people from the past. All these new Republicans that are running, all of them are just riding Trump's coattails, which is smart politically and fundraising wise. But this is what they all say. I'm the GOP member who backs Trump. I will be loyal to Trump. Like, be loyal to Jesus Christ if you want to impress me, not Trump, but whatever. I'm loyal to Trump. I'm running against the rhino. No mention of Operation Warp Speed. No mention of the $1 trillion loans. No mention of inflation. No mention that this didn't start under Biden, although Biden's a train wreck. It started under Trump, and everybody signed off on it, and they pushed it, and they still have yet to apologize. They're actually bragging about it. When Trump sends me an email, he doesn't say, I shouldn't have locked the country down. That was a mistake. I'm sorry for treating you like an animal. He says, I rushed the FDA faster than Fauci. Without me, this vaccine would have took 4 or 5 years and gone through normal approval. But with me, I rushed the vaccine. Okay, you're worse than Dr. Anthony Fauci. I like you much better than Anthony Fauci, but it's like you're desperate for me to hate you, like more than Fauci or something, where I don't. I'm not taking the bait, but it's like, this is the GOP. It doesn't matter if you're running for office and you're backing Trump. You're backing the same failed policies that honestly went further left than Obama, Bush, and Clinton. And I don't like either of them, but that's where this ended. And this is who the GOP sends. Some guy bragging about socialism, $1 trillion inflation loans, and Operation Warp Speed. Do I need to unregister? We need to put pressure, obviously peacefully, but on the GOP, people got to stop clapping like seals. I'm tired of it. It's like, but that's how they get you. Well, the left's being mean to the right. You got to defend the right. And then people will spend a week acting like Tim Scott's speech was good. It's boring. People like Candace Owens, because she doesn't sound like she's reading a teleprompter, because she's probably most of the time not. And if she was, she's believable and more authentic. People like Trump, because he was more authentic. Say what I want about Trump on his worst day. He's better than every politician on the planet. He's real. Sometimes, like he lost that, I think, in his last year when he just started reading the Warp Speed script. But that's why he won. People like me and other people, like it's the authenticity. They watch and listen to someone that they believe, because it's people telling them what they really feel. Tim Scott is reading off a teleprompter and his speech sucks. So it's like, he's not a good public speaker, and his speech writer is not even good. It's just a GOP lackey for the pharmacy industry. So how am I supposed to defend this guy? I would go out to eat with him. I would say, I like your suit. You dress nicer than me. But, as far as politically, what is it? Who does this appeal to? Not me.
For school choice in our lifetimes, because we know that education is the closest thing to magic in America. Last year, under Republican leadership, we passed 5 bipartisan COVID packages. Congress supported our schools, our hospitals, saved our economy, and funded Operation Warp Speed, delivering vaccines in record time. All 5 bills got 90 votes in the Senate. Common sense found common ground. In February, Republicans told President Biden we wanted to keep working together to finish this fight. But Democrats wanted to go it alone. They spent almost $2 trillion on a partisan bill.
Okay, I'm gonna have to pause this. So, when Republicans passed the $1 trillion CARES Act, which was a disaster, which helped, people don't understand. Well, he had to do it, guys. When you give that much money, $1 trillion, when you send $1 trillion, these people are not going to stop. They're getting money. They're getting power. When Trump was giving a thumbs up to Newsom and Murphy, when it first started, I'm not talking about a month later, when it first started, I was in my room thinking, dude, they only like you because you're giving them power. I like Trump, but he's like, me and Murphy are getting along. Me and Cuomo, it's going great. It's like, yeah, because you're giving them power to be a dictator over their state. Of course they're going to like you. And then a month later, you think, oh, Newsom won't open up. Duh, because you gave him the thumbs up when he stole everything from us. So, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like Senator Tim Scott wants me to be impressed that the Democrats passed a partisan $2 trillion bill, but we bipartisan passed a multi-trillion-dollar bill that was almost just as bad. Like, that's the two options: trillion-dollar bipartisan bill of common sense, where it's really just the biggest socialist scam of the 21st century, or the Democrat version of it. Do you get what I'm saying, guys? Going to CPAC to be cool is not going to cut it anymore. I know a lot of influencers know this stuff. Guys, it's time to take a stand. You have a lot of power and influence, especially in the GOP. People don't even care that much about the Republicans. They like, people that they watch on television and social media. Like, it's time to say something. Stop acting like this is normal. And, I want to just play a clip. I've played it before, but this is so that's our GOP. That's supposed to save us. This is the biggest conservative influencer on Facebook and most social media. Ben Shapiro, here's what he thinks about mandatory vaccinations.
Libertarian sort of vision of the world, right? That would violate tort law. So the idea that you have to have an environmental regulation that dictates that sort of thing makes some sense. When it comes to herd immunity for diseases, where you require 100% of the population to be vaccinated in order to prevent the transmission of diseases to people who can't actually have the vaccine, well, then you're talking about a non-libertarian principle being invoked. So I don't have a general problem with that. As to the second question, which is a question about the sort of, well, there are three questions, right? There was the libertarian question, then there was the aborted fetal cell question, and which vaccines those are used in. So number one, I'd have to know which specific vaccine.
I'm just going to pause it. I don't know if you caught it, but he said he would be for 100% of the population vaccination. I have a 3-part clip, but he basically says, I don't want them to go in your house and give it to you, but I think you should be barred from public spaces, because if 100% of the population don't get certain vaccines, that's, dangerous for Ben and his kids. So do you guys not get what I'm saying? If this is like the movement people are following, and there's things that Ben does fantastic. There's things that Charlie Kirk and Tim Scott do amazing. I'm not trying to be mean to them personally, but how in the world do you think you're ever going to be free again if you're following Tim Scott bragging about socialism and medical tyranny, the same one that treated you like an animal, and they still have yet to apologize, and in many states they're not even stopping? Ben Shapiro, who supports mandatory vaccinations, the biggest topic of the 21st century at this moment, the fact that we are now second-tier citizens if we don't wear something on our face, which is being replaced with second-tier citizens if we don't get a vaccination, which is being rolled out in Israel, by the way. They're doing the green passport, and all of these peace deals that Trump did. Oh my God, he got along with Bahrain. It's Israel and Bahrain working together to do a vaccine passport. Isn't that just interesting? Thank you, Jared Kushner, for peace in the Middle East, aka mandatory vaccination passports in the Middle East. And if you look at Trump, he passed an influenza vaccine executive order in 2019. That's eerily similar and very relevant to what's going on. Shocking stuff. Yeah, I'm not making a theory, but it's like, I don't know if 1 + 1 = 2. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to act like I'm too stupid to do math. Seems a little bizarre. But also, interestingly enough, this is something that I talked about 2 years ago that nobody wanted to hear. They passed speech laws to stop Trump passing an executive order, which made it harder to boycott Israel on college campuses. You thought Prager and Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and Trump, everybody thought they were fighting for free speech, and they just never were. And I tried to bring it up 2 years ago as nice as possible, but people don't want to hear it. We're fighting the left. Are you? Did you win? Because Biden's in office. Did you win? The country got shut down under Trump. There's a reason it's getting shut down, because the people running the show don't give a shit about you. And they put someone there to pretend like they do, and you guys buy it. So you got to stop buying it. So do you think it's a coincidence that the country that's rolling out the vaccine passport is doing it in countries that are now at peace with them? And you have a law in your country that is anti-constitutional that Trump passed that makes it harder to boycott or protest them on a college campus while you are now being forced to vaccinate to go to certain schools or areas. Do you think that's a coincidence? It's not a coincidence. It's never been a coincidence. And to keep rolling on that train, I have a new video that's going to take me a long time to edit. But here's Charlie Kirk, the other leader of the conservative movement, right? I mean, we're in good hands. Don't worry, guys. We got Tim Scott, Operation Warp Speed vaccine salesman Trump, mandatory vaccination Ben Shapiro, and Charlie Kirk, who thinks the American land means absolutely nothing, and he's supposed to be some sort of nationalist conservative. He said America's our home yesterday on Twitter and got ratioed when Nick Fuentes posted this. Take a listen. This is Charlie Kirk at some sort of like Jewish event, donor event, or I don't know. There's like all Hebrew written behind him. And he's like, America, the land in America doesn't matter. I've never heard anybody, especially a patriot, say that, because obviously it's not true. We fought hard, and this is like pretty important. The United States of America from sea to shining sea. But according to Charlie Kirk, that means nothing. It's just an idea.
I reject this idea of dual loyalty. I have loyalty to ideas. And of course, I love the Grand Canyon. I love the Rocky Mountains. And I love Boston. I love Chicago. But if all that disappeared and all I had was ideas and we were on an island, that's America. That's Israel. And that's what people have to realize, that America is just a placeholder for timeless ideas. And if you fall too in love with, the specific place and all this, that's not what it is. Israel will be the exception because there is a holy connection to this land.
What a piece of trash. And these are the people that you think are going to save the country. He said, it's not about from sea to shining. It's not about the Grand Canyon. It's not about the land. It's just a placeholder for ideas. That's what America and Israel are, except for Israel. I mean, of course, that's not true at all for Israel, because no Israeli would ever let, Charlie Kirk, traitors Charlie Kirk, say that at their thing. Like, yeah, no, it's not just about, it's an idea, but it's also the people. Israel cares about the people. They want Israel to be the Jewish Holy Land. So it's about the people there. And it's also about the land. There's a reason that them in Palestine and the Muslim world are fighting over the land. It's holy land. It absolutely matters about the land in Israel, and it absolutely matters about the people. And I would say there's nothing wrong with that. It makes total logical sense. Now go to America. Charlie Kirk's at some sort of Israeli event saying nothing matters here. Not the people, not the Grand Canyon, not the land. I mean, it's just an idea. So is Israel. But Israel's not an idea, just America. He's a piece of trash. And this is who these Zionists are. And I've told people this for 2 years, not to be edgy or rude, because that's Zionism. You can't serve two masters. I'm not being hateful towards Israel. I'm not being anti-Semitic. I have thousands of Jewish people watch my stream and have never heard a hateful word come out my mouth. But if you're a Zionist, you worship and support Israel over anything. And that goes for Pelosi, that goes for Biden, and that goes for Trump, and that goes for Kushner, and that goes for all these people. That's why they're passing laws to say that you can't say it. Ben Shapiro is pro-mandatory vaccination, but he also thinks it's a good idea to say it's anti-Semitic to suggest that somebody has dual loyalty to two countries. There's millions of people in America who have dual loyalty to Russia, to Canada, to Mexico, and to Israel. So why would they pass a law saying that you can't say that it's happening? Because it is happening. And if you actually realize it and point it out, they freak out and play the victim harder than anyone I've ever seen in my life all the time. So this is not random. You're following Charlie Kirk, who will go to an event for a foreign country and say, it's not about the land or the people here. Well, it is in your country, but not the one that I serve, because he doesn't serve this country. He's a Zionist. He serves Israel. Ben Shapiro is pro-mandatory vaccination. What's he conserving? He's conserving big pharmacy, flex over the Constitution. He's a piece of trash. And Tim Scott is certainly not conserving, the free market capitalism when he's bragging about the complete collapse of free market capitalism, punching America in the gut, and then claiming he saved the economy after they murdered the economy and then threw you a few bones with the $1 trillion CARES Act. This is the party you guys think's gonna, save your life with Trump at the helm? I'm not saying this for any other reason besides this is why we're here. And I people don't want to figure this out, but it's like, everybody talks about Islam, has no problem talking about, oh, it's the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay. They talk about China. Oh my God, there's a lot of Chinese influence in America. Yeah, you think? Of course there is. And the media tries to cover it up. But there's another type of influence in America that dominates almost every industry. And you know what it is? You can't say it because they pass speech laws in America, anti-constitutional ones, to make it illegal for you to say it. And you know who's in on it? Everyone. Facebook, YouTube, Google, they all enforce it. You know who else does? Pompeo and Trump and DeSantis as well. He also passed an anti-Semitism speech law in schools. And Trump passed an executive order making it illegal to protest the country and boycott the country that's now rolling out the vaccine passport. And the head of Pfizer goes over to that country and talks about how great it is. And they're dancing around doing like religious vaccine events. You think this is all random? Of course it's not. But you can't talk about it because you're not free in your own country. You're a conquered country by a bunch of people that don't give a shit about you. And when you figure out that they don't give a shit about you, about any of the ways that they're sold out, they've already passed a law to make it hard for you to say that because it's not true. No, because it is true. And the second that people realize it and the second that people talk about it, it gets really uncomfortable for the people who've been lying and stealing and cheating and destroying this country. And it spans all religions, all races, all political parties. And there's people who serve everybody but their own country. And that's true to anything. They'll say that it's so hateful to say that, but it's like when you look at people who take lobbying money from pharma, they want money. So they're willing to do things they wouldn't normally do for money from that industry. When people take money from oil or, climate change donors on the left or right, it's like they're taking, that's what lobbying is. The whole industry is lobbying. The biggest foreign lobbying group in America is AIPAC, which is Israel. They dominate both parties. That's why they hate when you say it so much and act like it's so racist. No, it's not. And if you guys did that to China and Islam and saw the same connections as something else, you would realize it's like times 10,000. You think Muslim Brotherhood's, a shocker? Wait till you figure something else out. But, if you ever say it and you ever do it, they will isolate you. And I've known this for years and I've spoken about it for years. Why do you think they don't know about me? Of course they do. If I spoke at their events, people would love it. But they have mandatory vaccinations to push. They have, I'm not dually. I want to listen to this again. Like at one point, this would be considered traitorous. If I said this, if a Democrat said this, white, black, Asian, like this was a statement in the 1950s and 60s. Like you couldn't say in either party. And this guy is supposed to be the head of the conservative nationalist movement. Listen to what he says. He doesn't give a shit about America, the land, the people here. None of that matters. And same for Israel, except not for Israel, because he realizes he's at an event with a bunch of people who love Israel. So he could never say that about Israel because Israelis know that that's not true. It is about their people. It is about their culture. And it is about the land. You think Israel wants to just sit in Argentina? No, that point has been brought up before from non-Zionists. They say, why don't you just take land somewhere else? And they don't want the land somewhere else, just like Palestine doesn't want land somewhere else. They want that land. So it's true there, but it's not true in America. And you're a blankety blank if you say that. No, we're being conned on both sides. And they give you these people who are just placeholders. Yeah, America's not a placeholder for ideas. Charlie Kirk is a placeholder for ideas. He just sits there and babbles generic things while he sells the country out. Listen again.
I reject this idea of dual loyalty. I have loyalty to ideas. And of course, I love the Grand Canyon. I love the Rocky Mountains. And I love Boston. I love Chicago. But if all that disappeared and all I had was ideas and we were on an island, that's America. That's Israel. And that's what people have to realize, that America is just a placeholder for timeless ideas. And if you fall too in love with, the specific place and all this, that's not what it is. Israel will be an exception because there is a holy connection to this land.
Can you believe this guy? Can you believe this? If all of America disappeared overnight, I wouldn't even care. I would. I like the Grand Canyon. I like California. I like Texas. I like the land and I like the people here. I don't want to be on an island with ideas. I think the people here matter. I love the American citizens. I love it all. I love our story. I love our immigrants. But he would be okay if it all disappeared because it's just an idea, and so is Israel. Wait, no, Israel's not. So what are you doing, Charlie? He's a Zionist, and he serves a foreign country. And if anybody ever stands up for their country, like Israel stands up for their country, they'll call you an anti-Semite. They'll kick you out of the Republican Party. Charlie Kirk will call you a homophobe, an anti-Semite, every name under the sun. Ben Shapiro will call you far right and alt-right because Ben Shapiro has something to do, which is, say that it's okay for them to vaccinate your child or bar them from an event if they don't. Listen to this guy. This guy's going to save your country in what's happening now. Give me a break.
Is not by forcing a government-R syndrome. There are certain risks that absolutely do carry. Guillain-Barré syndrome, for example, has been linked to certain types of vaccine. So the typical way this is done is not by forcing a government official to come to your house or calling your kid a truant if you don't get the vaccination. The typical way that this is done is saying you can't attend a public school unless you get the vaccination, which makes a certain amount of sense. You don't want to expose the general public to the transmission of a disease.
Ben Shapiro's fine with them mandatory vaccinating your child. I don't want them to come into your house. I just think it makes sense, for you to be barred from events. Do you get what I'm talking about, guys? There's a certain elephant in the room that the elephant party won't talk about because they're all being funded by them. It's the same thing. They're being funded to your controlled demolition. The Democrats are destroying the country and the Republicans are acting like they're trying to save it. Meanwhile, they're pushing you into the pit. It's like a movie, if you've ever seen, where someone reaches their hand out and you're like, oh my God, they're here to save me. And then they throw you into the fiery pits of hell. That's the GOP. That's all of these icons that you think are so conservative. And I'm not saying it for any other reason. You think I want to do this? You think this is fun? These people are just wicked men, wicked men that are selling America out in crunch time for America. And there's a reason that it's happening. So with the Tim Scott stuff, who is that speech for? Inauthentic, boring, stale, filled with platitudes, and filled with just big pharmacy socialism shilling, while on the other hand, they're talking about like cutting taxes or something. What a joke this party is, and what a joke these people are. The second thing I want to talk about, and then I'll answer some questions. Someone said, what do we say about Candace now she's affiliated with Ben? Gina Carano's affiliated with Ben. She's a good woman. Candace Owens says her mind. She says the exact opposite of what Ben says. So I at least like the fact that Ben's paying her money and she says what she wants. So I don't hold it against people, you know, as long as they're honest. I appreciate what Candace is saying. Like, she's not going that far in the tank with Ben, but at the same time, why am I able to tell you this? Because I don't work for Ben. You know, it's not going to threaten my paycheck. I mean, except for the fact that Facebook will probably try to shut it down. But besides that, like, you know, I think I don't hold it against people, but a lot of people, I'm not going to speak on behalf of Candace because she says whatever she wants and she still disagrees with Ben and it's no problem for her. But, you know, it becomes harder for certain people, not her. I don't think she really cares that much. But if, you know, you realize that calling out your own people is going to, you know, cause problems at work or whatever, I think that's really big in the movement. Once again, I'm not speaking about her, but I've spoken to other people where they knew that Trump was selling out the First Amendment. They knew that he was passing anti-Israel speech. Like, you can't boycott Israel. You could boycott this. You could boycott anything in America, but you can't boycott the foreign country but you also can't say that they have any influence over your country. You can't say that they have any influence over the media. You can't say this. You can't say that they have dual loyalty. Isn't that just weird? Is there any other laws on the book about this stuff? I don't know any. You could say this about Christians. You could say this about Islam. You could say this about anything in America, but you can't question if they control everything while they're controlling everything to force you not to say it and not to question them and not to boycott them, despite the fact that you could boycott your own government in both parties. Isn't that just shocking? And it's a dual party operation that the right wing, just to be honest, is far worse. I think they brainwash Christians into like destroying their own country or something because you say that and they're like, we have to do this. We have to sacrifice ourselves. It's like, you don't. That's not what the Bible says. I'm sorry the Schofield Bible lied to you, but you'll figure it out eventually. Anyway, without further ado, it needs to be said, it's not going in the right direction. On a more positive note, Mike Lindell, you know, went on Jimmy Kimmel, and I think that Mike Lindell was very, very authentic, and I think it's a message that we could take, a positive one, on how to really win over other people. You know, Mike Lindell went into the Lions Den. Jimmy Kimmel was trying to set him up, obviously, being somewhat nice but somewhat sneaky, you know, Jimmy. But in general, you know, Mike Lindell, it's a tough spot for him, but he was just very nice, very authentic. He just had like kid-like energy, you know, like you just liked him. You're like, okay, he's excited. And I always said that about him, even when I was like being annoyed by him. I'm like, he seems like a nice guy. He's just got to chill out. But I was reading the comments and I was like, wow, it's really cool to see so many liberals be like, you know what, Mike's a nice guy. And that it goes a long way, just not being a phony. You know, I agree with more right-wing policies, but I don't like phonies. I'm not trying to be mean, but like Tim Scott's, he's a nice guy, but he doesn't blow me away. Like, wow, this guy's really, he's reading off a teleprompter. Charlie Kirk's the same way. Like, I think he's a terrible public speaker. Do I agree with some things he's saying? Yeah, but like when it's real, you can feel it. And when it's fake and jagged and it's like, who is that impressing? You're not impressing liberals. You're not impressing me. I guess it's just enough to get most conservatives hyped up. So then those same people can run them off a cliff, metaphorically. But anyway, you know, Mike Lindell came off very likable, very authentic. You don't have to agree with everything he's done. I like that he's looking into the election. I just don't like that he gets so excited. He makes up dates. Trump's coming back on the 20th. He's like fueling a lot of this stuff while he's selling promo codes for QAnon. But I like that he's working hard and, you know, and I've always thought he's a nice guy, but it goes a long way, even if you're a liberal and you hate everything Mike Lindell's doing, seeing a person that's like has a soul, has good energy, and just seems like a nice guy. And I think the GOP and the Democrats could learn a lot from that, because, you know, politics is so fake. Trump was good because he wasn't so fake. That's got to be the future, or else we're just being lied to. Like Tim Scott, I don't care that he's black. I wouldn't care if he's white. I wouldn't care if he wore a God bless hat, although it probably would sway my opinion because I make them and I think that would be cool. But in general, it's like, I just don't believe him. And I agree with like 80% of what he said. You know, I just don't, it doesn't sound like someone talking to me like I'm a human being. It sounds like a politician reading a teleprompter. So I think the GOP needs to do that more. And if they don't, I think the base needs to stop clapping at this stuff. I mean, you know, beating the Democrats is not going to work if you realize where the Republican Party's heading. They're not headed in a freedom type direction. And the last thing I'm going to say before I answer questions is, if someone doesn't understand medical tyranny, they can't lead the conservative movement. I mean, maybe people will overrule me because I don't have that much say, but I'm done. I'm done supporting these people. I appreciate Candace Owens. You could say what you want about her from any angle. She goes harder at medical tyranny than Trump does. She goes harder at medical tyranny than Tim Scott does. She goes harder at medical tyranny than most of the GOP, with the exception of maybe one or two sitting congressmen. So I would support her. I'm not saying, I don't know that she would solve everything in America, but I would vote for her. I don't even know if she's running, over these people for that thing. If you don't get medical tyranny, you can't be the head of the Republican Party. You can, but you're not going to help anyone. You have to, demand some. That's why Ron DeSantis is so popular. He's fighting medical tyranny more than they are. And that's exactly why he's popular. So that's a good trend. But I would never vote for these people. I would vote for Mike Lindell, despite everything I've said about him, lying and saying Trump's coming back in March and August. He keeps making crap up because he's so excited, which, it is what it is. I would vote for him, no matter how much I've said about him, over any of these people. And he's not running, but I'm just saying, he gets medical tyranny. He understands it more than them. And he's like an actual person with flaws like everyone, but he's not just like running around telling everyone to get vaccinated and Operation Warp Speed's so fantastic. Same with Candace. She's like, I'm not getting it. So I respect that more than Ted Cruz saying, I got it. Can I go back to work now without a mask? It's like, what are you going to conserve, Ted Cruz? Like, I mean, I like Ted Cruz too. He's a nice guy, but it's like, what are we doing as a party? Like, someone's got to put their foot down. So I think the future, on that note, they have to understand medical tyranny. If they don't like Trump, you got to stop acting like it's cool. It's not cool. They held us for ransom for a year. It was a bipartisan shutdown. Trump has still not learned his lesson. Tim Scott has not learned his lesson, because they don't have to learn their lesson, because they make money. I don't know that Trump really did, but they make money. They get more power. They get more control. They don't, it's up to the people to be like, that was unacceptable what happened. And we're choosing a leader who will fight hard against that. And with Ron DeSantis, he deserves compliments for what he did, and then to be pushed harder for what he didn't do, because we're losing ground. The Florida of this year is still a shell of what Florida was 2 years ago. Is it better? Do I appreciate Ron DeSantis? Hell yeah. He's very important in keeping somewhat, America afloat. But that's the direction, and further in that direction. Not like, oh, well, it's like, dude, Tim Scott's not doing anything, not culturally, not socially. Like, that was whack. I'm sorry. Yeah, Joe Biden makes him look like freaking, Prince. So that's not a comparison. Like, is he better than Biden? Of course. Yeah, Biden, who really likes him? According to the YouTube likes, not that many people. But yeah, it's not enough anymore. And it's not because I'm like, need it to be more. Someone said, didn't I meet Trump? I went to the White House with the Hispanic Republicans, and I appreciate it, and I'm grateful, and it was a really important day for me. It was a really nice day. I felt very honored to be there, but I'm still a human being. So if he turns around and does $1 trillion socialist, Operation Warp Speed, funds these corrupt industries who are dangling them over my head and sells out speech laws, yeah, I'm not going to just sit here and take it. But that's the difference between me and other people. It's not a competition, but they want to shut up because, yeah, of course. Do you think I don't want to get invited to events and stuff? Yeah, of course I do. I want to go to the White House again if a Republican wins, but I actually care more about what's right. And I'm not gonna sacrifice my own country, my own people, for my own fame or my own, enjoyment. And that's the difference between me and everyone else. They know what I'm saying is right. You think any of these conservatives who get mad at me could debate me? I would destroy Ben Shapiro. I would destroy Charlie Kirk. I would destroy anybody who ever talks trash about me. So they keep it to themselves because they know that because, you know, in their head, they're like, well, that's true, but it's not a big enough deal because I want to impress this person. It's like, I'm sure you do, but it's not a little thing. If it was a little thing, I would let it go. What happened in March 2020 until now is so not small. It's literally like do or die time. You know what I'm saying? For the country. It's like, are we going to prosper and live as free humans, or are we going to live a subservient life as slaves? So 10 years in the future, you talk to your kids or whoever, and you're like, when I was young, we used to be able to go to the beach. When I was young, we used to be able to travel to Europe. When I was young, we actually used to go into supermarkets without a mask. We used to be able to fly on planes without a mask and a vaccine card. Like, that's where it's going. So if any of these people, Tim Scott, you know, Shapiro, are pushing us in the wrong direction, it's not a small issue. It's the biggest issue in modern history. It's slavery or freedom. So Ben Shapiro's pro-slavery. He has no problem if you and your family get treated like slaves for the rest of your life because you don't want to get the Moderna vaccine. Ask Ben Shapiro, is he going to be liable if something happens? There's people all over Twitter complaining about stuff. Bill Gates knows it. That's why they got indemnification. That's why they have the PrEP Act. And that's why they have the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act to protect themselves from liability. So is Ben Shapiro going to take liability? Of course not. He doesn't give a shit. He's just going to keep profiting and telling you and your kids that you shouldn't be allowed in public spaces unless you get vaccinated. So is he conservative? No, he's pro-slavery. He's the least conservative person on the planet. What's the point of talking about, you know, low taxes and free market if the free market gets destroyed by this corruption and you're on the wrong side of this debate? You're not doing shit. Tim Scott's not doing shit, and neither Shapiro. So it's not a small issue. It's a giant issue, and I'll tell you, the people will speak. So this country is better than other countries because of the people. I wouldn't even say the politicians. The politicians get there because of the people. It's the people here. So running for office is important. The mindset of our country is bigger. It doesn't matter who wins in Canada anymore until the mindset changes. Because if they elect a conservative, it's like their conservatives are more liberal than some of our Democrats. So it doesn't matter. The mindset in Britain is so skewed that, you know, the Overton window shifted towards both parties are selling them out. Boris Johnson is like worse than Theresa May, and he's got a red, you know, whatever, he's a conservative. So, you know, our mindset's important in America, and it's not the GOP and these people who speak at college campuses who makes our country great. It's us. It's you. You make the country great. We make the country great. So never be afraid to flex your only power you have as a citizen, not just your vote, but your decision to either support somebody or tell them that they're not doing enough. And there's a way to do that politely. You know, someone said you need to run for office. I'm going to say this again. The media is more important than running for office. When I get #1 link on Facebook out of the entire social network, the biggest social network in modern human history, I'm #1 above every news company. I'd rather do that than be president. I mean, it's important to be president, but that you don't understand how big what I'm doing is. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, if you can control people's minds, I just said, you know, it doesn't matter who runs for office if people are so far gone. And that's happening now. So if enough people wake up, the politicians will get in office who can change the party. If the GOP and more liberals wake up and get to a bigger point, then they won't allow this. America is somewhat free now because of conservatives. I'm just going to say it. It's not liberals. It's conservatives, enough of them, 80 million, who at a certain point, maybe 50 million, 40 million, whatever, that said, I'm not wearing a mask. I don't want the jab. I'm not closing my business. That's why America's free. It's not because of Trump. It's not even because of DeSantis. DeSantis got there because of, you know, people being there. And he's important. He's a citizen too. But you get what I'm saying? The mindset matters. If they brainwashed us even further with media and education, it wouldn't even matter who won. So, you know, it's not the only thing that's important. Running for office is good. But if we can't win the cultural battle, it doesn't matter. And if it's Tim Scott versus Biden, it doesn't matter, you know? And even if Tim Scott gets in office, if enough people demanded him doing something, he'd probably flop like a fish, you know? But we need to send that message straight. I'm looking at the comments. The Biden one's getting ratioed. Nobody likes Joe Biden, or most people don't. The Tim Scott one, everyone's like, oh, such a good speech. Like, it's not a good speech. And he's just shilling for the pharmacy industry. So, you know, let your voice be heard and let these people, the Kirks and the Shapiros, let them know it's not cool. And I'll tell you that video I shared with you, I'm just going to read. Charlie Kirk said, America is our home. It had 193 retweets and 1,400 likes. Nick Fuentes posting that video of him saying he doesn't care about the land or the people got 870, almost 1,000 retweets and almost 3,500 likes. So Charlie Kirk's getting ratioed on his own posts, like 3-1, 4-1. It's everybody just saying, bro, you're a liar. That they need to feel that. He's like a public figure where it's like, they need to feel like not so comfortable being so weak and so dishonest and selling our country out. They need to know that it's going to come at their popularity, which I'm sure they care about. So, Shapiro, mandatory vaccines in this world, and he barely gets any backlash about it. I'm not talking obviously peaceful, be nice to these people, but I mean, at a certain point, yeah, the two-party system's not going to cut it at this point. So hopefully that was a good chat. Hopefully people learned something. Tim Scott's a politician. Someone said he's a sellout. I don't know who he's selling out to, but he's just talking like a politician, and people are clapping like seals. Like I feel offended. I feel like they treated me like an animal and a slave for a long time. I think they owe me an apology. They took my taxes. They treated me like an animal. They shut down my gym. They shut down travel, and it happened from Florida to Texas to California. They did the mask mandate. They've completely overtaken the airlines where it'll probably never be the same again. Even if I'm in South Dakota or Florida and I have to fly, I feel like I was robbed. I feel like I was robbed and held for ransom. And now they're just telling me, here's the vaccine, get it, or you're going to be a slave. So I feel like I deserve an apology, and everyone deserves an apology from Trump, from Tim Scott, from both parties. But, you're not going to get it from the Democrats, and they don't give a shit. And they don't give a shit because no one makes them give a shit, because people would rather clap like seals, go to CPAC, go to the TPUSA event. The TPUSA event, if you're a guy, is jam-packed with conservative women. And if you're a woman, it's jam-packed with conservative opportunities. So nobody wants to say anything because they control the culture on the right. They're not doing anything. The leader doesn't even give a shit about America, the land, the people. He worships Israel harder than he worships his own constitution, has nothing to say or nothing of value to say during the whole year of America turning into a socialist, communist, medical tyranny, slave country. So no one wants to say anything because it's going to ruin their opportunities of being somebody in the conservative movement. With TPUSA and Daily Wire, those are powerhouses. If you get a job with TPUSA, you're good. You're plugged in, you're networked. If you get a job with Daily Wire, you're good. You're plugged in, you're networked. They must have a lot of money because signing Gina Carano is not cheap and signing Candace Owens is not cheap. I would assume Candace is making a pretty penny because she deserves it. She's leagues above a lot of other people doing what she's doing. So you get what I'm saying? If those people are running the show, mandatory vaccination, I don't even care about the land. It's becoming a problem. But I'm sure a lot of people know that, but are afraid to say it because there's social consequence. If you're a liberal and you say, you know what, I think Trump's speech wasn't that bad, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're what, it's like there's every word under the sun. So if you're liberal, it's like a cult in the sense of like, you got to shut up. If you disagree with the liberals, they're the least tolerant people on the planet. I've never seen less tolerance. Hey, I voted for Biden, but like, I just don't agree with like get the hell out of here. So it's not as bad on the right. It's much better, but there's still an element of it's not that bad. But like, yeah, if you like Nick Fuentes more than Charlie Kirk, you're not going to work at Turning Point USA. You're going to be called a alt-right. You're going to be called an anti-Semite. You're going to be, you're going to be called a homophobe if you question their, agenda that they're. So it's not as bad as the left. The left is worse, but there is a lot of that on the right where more people than understand this stuff, but they're afraid to say it because it comes at a political or connection cost. Someone said thoughts of Nick being put on a no-fly list. I have a whole video about it. I think it's a disgrace, but I have a whole other video about it. I don't want to talk about it too much. Thanks, Matt Nixon. I appreciate it. All right, we'll read some questions. I'm going to read this real quick because this is pretty insightful. Deborah said, thank you, Deborah. She said, I had the chance to go on a tour in Israel in October, but I learned Israel makes you prove 3 different ways you're COVID-19 free: PCR test, serology test, and proof of vaccination. I pulled out. I'm not doing any of that. I have to repeat myself because regardless, like if you even question Israel or anyone Jewish ever, I would say it doesn't go well for you. You're going to be called an anti-Semite. It's the biggest flex ever to stop anybody from questioning anything. But in general, you can't find me saying something horrible about Israel. I usually compliment them. I'm like, they're doing what they need to do. America's not doing what America needs to do. But in general, I don't hate Israel. I actually like Israel. I'm just saying, if they're rolling out the vaccine passport, they have 3 different ways of identification, and you think they're not going to bring it to the rest of the world? Israel is plugged in America. I mean, they're our ally, but also, I mean, they have a lot of influence over America. That's just true. Everyone knows it, but you just can't say it. So, it's like, it's not hateful to point that out. And in general, I think Jewish people have the right to do what they want to do. I think Palestinians have the right to feel the way they feel. And I think I have the right to feel like I'm American. I'm not a Judeo-Christian, dual loyalty, Israel, America could fall, but I'd still give them, billions of dollars of aid. And, you can't question them, and saying anything about them is anti-Semitic. And God forbid you protest them on a college campus. We got to pass an executive order. Yeah, that's not me. So if those are the 2 options, like, I'll fall in the category of like, I don't agree with any of that stuff. So, but that's the kabuki theater that they give you on the right wing. Either you're selling America out for Israel, or you're an anti-Semite, or you're far-right, alt-right. And it's by design. These are the games they play. If you tell the truth about vaccines and you have data, FDA approval stuff, mainstream knowledge, CNBC, Reuters, they'll call you an anti-vaxxer. It doesn't matter if you've gotten 30 vaccines in your life. They'll call you an anti-vaxxer, not because it's true, because that's a way to shut down the conversation around what they don't want you to talk about. It's the same thing with Israel and anything Jewish. It's the same tactics, but the right wing doesn't understand that. What is my opinion of John Kerry? He's a politician. I'm curious to why he was in Antarctica on the election day, but that's just a personal, curiosity. He's a politician. Not a fan of John Kerry. I think he's like a classic George Bush, John Kerry, a classic corrupt politician. Dialogue progress. When do you think they'll start sending us to the gulags here in Canada? The Calgary government just sent police to arrest a priest, and I'm not jacked yet. Well, it's always good to get too jacked for the gulag, but I don't know. I can't speak on behalf of Canada. I try to be optimistic. I don't like to manifest negative things happening, but I also try to hype people up. I'm not doing this as like, oh, I hate Charlie Kirk so much for a personal reason. I'm sure we'd get along, and I'm sure like Ben Shapiro, I could probably we could eat some like wonton soup or something. He could get something kosher. We'd probably have a good time. But as far as, America, I'm sounding the alarm, so I don't want to be pessimistic, but at the same time, I don't want to be passive. So I'm trying to be like, listen, you can't be doing this right now. And for sure, like with the speech stuff, like they put us in these like false paradigms. You're either going to vote for him or Tim Scott. It's like, I don't want to vote for Tim Scott. I would sit down and eat barbecue with Tim Scott in Texas, or go to, I think he's from South Carolina, and eat whatever native food they have. I would eat whatever he cooked, even if it was like something basic. Order Chinese food with Tim Scott, whatever. But that doesn't mean that what he's doing is going to work for the country. It's just not. I'm like, I feel offended, not like snowflake offended, that they treated us like shit for a year and they don't even care. Like, they're not talking about exercise. They're not talking about how wicked what they did was, like, to the fullest extent. They're just reading a teleprompter, like, schools are good. Like, yeah, duh. You think so? Well, I mean, some schools are good. Someone said we need help. Thank you, bro. I think we do. Someone said, I want to know who's writing all this stuff, these political hack speeches. They're all just reading from a script. I'll tell you what, too. I went to the Trump rally in Arizona, and it was fantastic. But I watched Trump at CPAC, and he read the same script. In Arizona, it was like the same script he read in February, where I'm like, bro, who's writing these scripts? I don't know. Like, Build Back Better. Oh, Operation Warp Speed. Like, we've heard it. We get it. Yay, you gave billions of dollars to the vaccine companies. Yay, we're being treated like slaves. Yay, this was always an obvious transgression, because if you give money to these companies, oh yeah, Trump's really going to fight the mandatory vaccinations by giving money to Israel and vaccine companies. Like, they're the ones rolling it out. Of course it's not going to help us. We've been dual party sold out. And people, especially now, but I've never been an Israel boycotter, because I don't care. I don't know. It's not really my thing. I don't feel that way, that harshly about them. But if they're rolling out the vaccine passport, I would love to have the right to do that. I don't know if I would do a specific boycott on that. I'd probably make it more global, but now we don't even really have the freedom on college campuses. Not that you could even go to college normally, but if you could, or when you could, you don't have the right to boycott the country who's rolling out the vaccine passport because of Kushner, Trump. I mean, excuse me, Freudian slip. No, I'm just kidding. I purposely did that, but because of Kush Trump or Trumpner, Jared Trump, Donald Kush. Someone said Scott Adams is writing them. I would not be surprised if Scott Adams was writing them. Once again, very nice guy, Scott Adams. I feel like I really like Scott Adams. I really do. I still follow him. But when it comes to the medical tyranny and like the lockdown stuff, terrible takes. Like I even told him one time and he still didn't unfollow me. So I think we have a mutual respect for each other. I like Scott Adams. I like Dilbert. I like his takes. His medical takes suck. They suck. Like, and it's just not time for that because it's swallowing up the whole world. If you don't get this, you can't be a free market capitalist because this is what's taking it away. Like, I feel like Mugatu from Zoolander. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I can't be the only one who sees this stuff. Like, I never used to talk about anybody. I don't need to pick fights. I just like doing my work. But if the entire movement's being led by like 5 people and they're all just lying all the time, I don't know what else to say. I'm like, these are the 2 biggest conservative groups in America, and they're both full of shit. My bad, but not really. It's like a fake apology. I'm not really sorry. Riz J said, what do you think about Pfizer admitting source blazing press? I gotta, Riz, I apologize, but I gotta look that up before I read it and say, because I got a blazing press. Yeah, I don't know what blazing press is, but it doesn't sound like something I've ever heard. I'll look it up, but I try to be very pinpoint about stuff when I talk about it because I've already been censored 6 times on Facebook for telling the truth. So I don't want to lie and I don't want to state something falsely. I'm so accurate when I talk about vaccines because I know that they hate the truth about it. I've even gotten my premiere taken away recently on Facebook. When I do a big video, I can premiere it and it goes live and thousands of people are live, sometimes 2, 3, 4, whatever. It used to be 10,000 before they rigged my page, but whatever. It's fine. Now I can't premiere videos anymore. And I'm not afraid to say something, but I can't like confirm or deny the super chat because I'd have to look it up. Someone said I heard something about shedding. I got to look it up. I mean, I'm familiar with VAERS. I know that I get the whole game. You know, I've said everything I can do. I've gotten the message to millions of people. You don't have to convince me. I get it. You know, they have no liability. They got tens of billions of dollars or billions of dollars. They're working with the government. The NIH owns part of Moderna. You know, it's been like a Department of Defense sort of thing. So when Trump said the military and the vaccine companies, that's not abnormal. That's like how they got started. And, you know, they've done that for decades, I believe. So I get it. I'm trying to figure out how to be effective because, you know, that's why I go so hard at the GOP. The Democrats can't do anything for me. They could if they were just stop lying, but everything is a lie. Tim Scott looks like Michael Jackson versus Joe Biden. You know, it's like, oh yeah, is Tim Scott better than Joe Biden? Like, duh. I felt like I was watching Thriller for the first time, you know, compared to Biden's robotic speech. But, you know, in comparison to like what's going to actually work, like, yeah, I don't think what he's saying is going to work really well. So I don't know what else to say, but the Republicans, they're all selling the vaccine. I wouldn't care if they did it responsibly, but I don't think it's responsibly. I think they're jamming it down everyone's throats. I think they've never once mentioned that they have no liability. They've never once mentioned like there's people with problems. Like it's not, you know, it's like any pill. Like maybe you should do research and figure out if it's right for you. Every commercial says talk to your doctor, figure out if it's right for you. I think that's the right thing. It's not right for me. I don't need it. I know multiple people who've been more sick off of that than I've been since I was 23. I don't want to be that sick. It's not healthy to be that sick. If it happens, it's okay. But why would I risk that when I've been to the biggest event in America last year, Sturgis, and I didn't even catch a cold? I'm fine. If they could, I truly believe this. I wrote a tweet about it. If they could, I think they would rip out your immune system and replace it with a pharmacy product. Am I being sarcastic? Maybe, but not really. If they could do that, I think they would do that. I think they would rip your immune system out and replace it with something that you had to purchase so they can make a sale. They tried to tell me I had ADHD when I was a kid. I don't have ADHD. I am a really good, I could edit for 5 hours without even like moving, which is not healthy, but I just didn't like school because I was creative. I'm left-handed. I like music. I like sports. That's what I like. I don't like reading fake books with a, dumb teacher who just lies to me all the time. So, and good teachers. I had good teachers too. Don't get me wrong. Teachers are great, but like, you get what I'm saying? Sometimes you have a bad teacher and they're just pushing nonsense. And you're like, I don't want to learn about rocks today. I like rocks, but like, I don't want to learn about rocks today, tomorrow. Like, can we learn about it next year? I'm bored. But anyway, God bless good teachers. Let me just get that out of the way in general, but there's bad ones too. And, I don't have ADHD. I don't need Adderall. I've taken Adderall in college to study. Just disclaimer, it's true. And it's crazy. It's like crack cocaine. And I've never smoked crack. I don't know what that's, but you get what I'm saying. I'm jacked up for like 10 hours, like crazier than like, it's a heavy drug. I can't believe they're giving that to children just willy-nilly. Like, take it. It's like vaccine, take it. I've never seen anything like it. And this comes from an industry that I felt this way my whole life since I was 16. I'm like, they're over-prescribing everything. Do some people need it? Of course. Does everyone need it all the time if they can't? No, maybe he's a welder. You know what I'm saying? A lot of kids go to Votech school because they're not made to be like a scientist. They are, because actually physical stuff is science. But, it's like they want to be a welder. They want to work on wood and build houses, which is dope. But it's like it doesn't mean you have to jack like all these pharmacy products in their throat because they're made for physical labor or they're creative and they want to, do that type of work or work on cars or something. There's nothing wrong. They give it to every kid. If you can't pay attention, you must have this. You must have this. They're over-prescribing everything. That's why our country's just jacked up with pharmacy products. So this idea that now I'm an anti-vaxxer when I've been saying this for 10 years, I've been rapping about it since 2008, since I was 18, 19 years old, literally. So this is not like a new thing to me. It's just like the industry that's over-prescribing stuff is responsible for the most over-prescription scheme I've ever said. And they're all just like, get it. You get a free donut. It's like a crackhead. It's like Tyrone Biggums from, what is it, Chappelle's Show. It's like, it's like, dude, if I ever went to a restaurant like this, I wouldn't get it just out of principle. I'd sit down. Hey, how you doing? You should get the chicken. You should get the chicken cutlet. You try the chicken cutlet. You should get the chicken cutlet. Dude, I love chicken cutlet. Yeah, I'll check it out. No, you should get it, dude. If you get the chicken cutlet, you get a free dessert with the chicken cutlet. I'm just saying, get the chicken cutlet. Listen, we got 5 doctors here. Get the chicken cutlet. Hey, I'm an advisor. I would get the chicken cutlet. It's good for you. It's healthy. It tastes good. Get the chicken cutlet. I'd be like, I would leave the restaurant. I'd be like, listen, I love chicken cutlets. I'm part Italian. I grew up on chicken cutlets. My grandfather made the best. I wouldn't get it. Like, that's not how you act. It's not a normal thing. There's drug dealers that don't act like that, and they're trying to sell something. No, you should get it. No, trust me, dude. I got this chef back here from Italy. He's like, hey, dude, I'm a chef from Italy. I'm just here. I'm just an expert. They call me an expert. He's got like a badge. Dude, this chicken cutlet, you're gonna want it. Trust me. You get it. You get a free donut, free dessert. I mean, we'll just give it to you for free. Actually, we're gonna waive the fee. Normally, you got to pay for this stuff. We'll just give it to you for free. Now the government paid for it. Yeah, we'll give. Let's get you that for free. Okay, guys, this guy's got the free one. Let's free chicken cutlets for everybody here. Dude, we'll even pay for the tip. Don't tip. It's like, I would be like, I'm being set up. I got to get out of here. So, and then it's like, on top of that, they're not even letting you be free. Like that's the craziest part. I can't be the only one. I thought they were going to do, I have my own thoughts, but I thought I think eventually they'll let people take the mask off if they get the vaccine, which in my opinion is gross enough, but they're like, get the vaccine and Joy Reid is still wearing 2 masks outdoors. Like, what? Are you people don't get it yet? They're forcing you to get this thing and then they won't even let you free. This is crazy stuff, man. I just can't do it. Someone said the cruise industry has been destroyed because of the virus. Don't get me started. I love cruises. I was a Royal Caribbean Prime member. I'm out here bling, 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 playing slot machines, getting free cruises. Like, listen, the boy cruised right. You got me out there Cupid shuffling. I don't care if the lady on the dance floor is 89 or 24. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing the shuffle. I'm having a good time. I'm looking over, you know, where my lady's at. And then you got just a line of grandmas. Listen, I love the Cupid Shuffle, but more importantly, I like cruises more than anybody. And they've ruined it forever. They've ruined the cruise line industry. They've destroyed it. And now it's done because they're going to force you to vaccinate just to get on. And then if you get the vaccine just to get on, they're probably going to make you wear a mask in certain areas. I mean, who wants to go on vacation with a freaking mask on? They've ruined my favorite thing, and that has lit a fire under me. Okay? Thank you for inspiring me. You think it's America? No, it's the cruise lines. This is all just an anomaly plot to get back on a cruise boat. And as soon as I can get back on a cruise boat, I'm out. I'm going to be like, peace, America. I'm a cruise for the rest of my life. No, I'm just kidding. But I do love cruises. Yeah, it's insane what they're doing. I don't get how people don't care yet. I don't know. But at the same time, I don't just run around like a maniac. I enjoy my life. I don't live in that world. Don't bring that world to me. I saw someone today. I see people like walking a dog, and the dog looks great. You know, dogs are always just having a good time. And then they're wearing like this crazy pointy muzzle. And I'm like looking, like, I feel like you ever like watched a movie where they have like a weird dream, like in the future, and like the world's all screwed up and everything's backwards. It's like the dog has no muzzle on and the human has a muzzle on. And the dog's like, and the human's like, and I'm like drinking my coffee, and I'm just like, what is this a bad dream? Is this a bad dream or something? Because this can't be real. Like, people are really doing this, and there's no rule that you have to like do that. It's not like no one's forcing them to, they're doing it to themselves. I'm just blown away. I'm like, your dog, it looks like the dog's walking the human and they've switched like bodies or something. I'm watching like a Lindsay Lohan, like part 2, like dog edition with the Parent Trapper. I don't know. I gotta go in like 2 minutes. I don't want to go specifically, but I have to pee really bad, just to be honest. And you know, I'm not built like this. I don't know how long I can go, but the God Bless hats, these ones have the Velcro back. It's on dreamrare.com. I've heard these ones are better. I feel like thicker stitching. I got a new person. We're not doing it through like the drop shipping. I'm doing it like on my own. And I think these ones are bigger. I have a big head, not like I'm full of myself. Like I have like literally a big head. So I've heard, you know, so this one is like even better because some people, you know, they're like, I don't like the small ones. I like the small ones just as much, to be honest, but like this one's like a bigger one. And then I got the God Bless beanies. It's all on dreamrare.com. And is thinking illegal yet? You know, yes, probably. It's all on dreamrare.com. You guys get it. That's my thing. That's why I'm able to say what I say, is because I make my own money, and they're making it more difficult, I think, on social media. Thank you to everybody on Patreon. Thank you to everybody on Facebook supporters. Thank you to everyone who super chats and stuff. I got to do a live stream with the Facebook supporters. I apologize. This month was crazy again. I was trying to take a mini break. I don't really take breaks that much, but it's like as soon as I took a break, I didn't take a break because I went to the Orange County school meeting, and then I got smeared by NPR. That was supposed to be my easy week, and it ended up being like one of the more stressful weeks. I don't let it bother me, but I'm not just going to let some Melvin from NPR just talk shit about me. Like, I'm just going to let that slide. I'm like, yeah, okay. So, you know, I had to suit up for the game. So I've been a little slow, and I'm trying to get back into it because I've also done a lot of like personal things in my, like, you know, I actually am human, and I have like bills and things I got to do around the house and such, but you guys get it. Thank you guys for being here. I'll try to answer one more question, and Facebook will do a live stream in the next couple of days, I think. If not in early May, I'll figure it out. Patreon, I'm going to answer the messages. I probably have like 600 emails on top of that, but patrons on Patreon, patreon.com/raretalk. I answer everybody on there, and I always have. It just takes me a few weeks sometimes. So that's what it is. I got Telegram, Dream Rare Chat, Instagram, Dream Rare, just some things you can follow. And yeah, Facebook's really screwing with me. Like I don't care, but it's official now. Like I sleep pretty good, and I feel good about myself. But you know, when you got NPR, Mashable, Chelsea Clinton, Atlantic, all trying to get you kicked off of your social media, saying he's a conspiracy theorist, like, it was not that fun. I'm not crying. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. Honestly, I'm not like afraid. It's just annoying because all I want to do is be on a cruise boat with elderly people doing the Cupid shuffle. But here I am being treated like an animal, getting yelled at by pseudo intellectual losers at NPR on my freaking 3-day break with my friends. So I was like, you know, it's all good. But this last week, I'm like, man, it's like a new chapter. I'm like, I like sliding under the radar, you know, because I don't want that much attention. I don't want the press. They're evil people. Why would anyone want these people to write about them? I used to think I wanted press. Now I want to be left alone. I'd be like, oh, please write about me, like in your blog, pitchfork.com. Like, I never realized what psychopaths the journalists were until like 2016. Now I want them to leave me alone. So anytime they write about me, it's not going to be good. So, you know, now that I'm like, okay, I officially don't slide under the radar anymore. You got the former president's daughter crying about me and Tucker Carlson. I'm like, that sucks. But at the same time, I'm grateful because that means I'm doing well. So it is what it is. Shelly Woogie said, thank you. This was great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Do I do the cha-cha slide? Yeah, of course I do the cha-cha slide, the Cupid shuffle. Listen, I don't look like a party animal, or do I? But the boy can dance a little bit. Listen, I know all the cruise songs. And, you know, you might see me at the slot machine. You might see me at the pool deck. You might see me in karaoke. I sing good. I would say no. Certain songs, yes. Most songs, no. But I sing. You know, I'm not going to not sing at the karaoke thing. So I know what I'm doing out there on the cruise line. We're going to make cruise lines great again. And maybe Mike Lindell can do a My Pillow cruise or something. That would be better than a social media. My Pillow cruise, no vaccinations, buy a cruise boat, Trump cruises, whatever. I'll forgive Trump. If he does Trump cruises, no vaccine, no mask, no tests, I will forgive Trump. I will apologize. Just give me Trump cruises. He's got the money to do it. That's actually a thing. Let's stick with that. Let's respectfully ask Mike Lindell, or who else is rich on the right wing. I don't know. We need a cruise line that has no vaccinations, because I'm like a crackhead. I can't go without a cruise for like 4 years. Now that I just started cruising. I didn't cruise my whole life. I was broke my whole 20s. I was working hard. I don't want a vacation. I don't want to do this. I had a good work ethic. I was like, I got to do this. I got to get stuff done. As soon as I got it done, I'm like, okay, I have time. I could take a cruise. I had to go on 3 cruises, have the time of my life. I'm like, I'm going to cruise 4 times a year. Just when I started hitting my stride, they just destroyed the whole world. It's like, I'm taking this personally. It's not just about me. It's about the whole world. But like, listen, you treat me like an animal, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be upset. You treat me like an animal and take away cruises, you just awakened a beast, okay? At least give me the cruise boat. Let me feel good a few times a year. But it's all good. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. Someone said you should book a cruise ship and invite all your people. If I could, we'll figure it out. I'm not rich enough yet. Maybe I am connected enough to convince somebody to make a cruise line. I'm not sure, but I will do everything in my power to try to get our own cruise boat that is vaccinated, non-vaccinated, like optional. Maybe maybe be like, no, maybe we'll be like the other side and be like, no, you're not allowed on if you get it. No masks allowed, no masks allowed. I don't know. I might be feeling bitter. I'm not very emotional, but I can be. I'll be like, oh, you want to play this game? Our cruise is the opposite. You guys aren't allowed on. Something to think about is talk to DeSantis. I'm sure he's busy. I'm not going to bother Ron DeSantis about that. I mean, I think he's suing the CDC, trying to get the cruise lines to like open up or something. He's doing not everything, but he's doing enough to he deserves an applause for apologizing about the pandemic and apologizing about locking down. That takes a lot of guts to say, I would have done this differently. Have you heard any other politician like ever say that? Hey, maybe we shouldn't have done like the Patriot Act. They never say that. So Ron DeSantis gets an applause, fighting somewhat hard for the cruises, gets an applause. The rest of them, they can do nothing for me. Tim Scott, nice guy, would hang out with them. Is he going to save the GOP? I don't think so, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for getting hats at dreamrare.com. And that's what it is. I'll be back. I have a lot of videos to edit. I'm just like dreading doing it, but I'm working on it. So see you guys soon. Have a good day. Hopefully that was fun.